The night was cold and the city was broken. Buildings stood like empty skeletons, their windows smashed. Their walls burned black. Smoke still rose from the ruins, carrying the smell of fire and death. The war had left nothing alive here, or so it seemed. The only sound was the distant echo of alien ships moving through the dark sky, hunting, always hunting. Commander Arik walked slowly through the rubble, his boots crunching on broken glass. He was tired, his body covered with dust and scars, but his eyes were sharp. He had seen many battles, too many. Yet something about this night felt different. His instincts told him that he was not alone. Then he saw her. A figure, small and shaking, crouched near the corner of a collapsed wall. At first, Arik thought it was only a shadow, but then the moonlight touched her face. A girl no older than 18, her skin pale, her eyes wide with fear. She was trembling so badly that her hands could not stay still. Arik raised his weapon, unsure if she was human or something else. The aliens were clever, and they sometimes used illusions. But as he stepped closer, he noticed something strange. Her skin seemed to glow faintly, like there was light running under it, as if her veins carried more than blood. The girl looked at him, her lips parted, but no words came. She tried to move back, but her legs failed. She looked weak, fragile like a bird with broken wings. Arik lowered his weapon, his soldier's heart telling him she was no enemy. Slowly, he took off his jacket. The night was freezing, and her body shook like a leaf in the wind. He placed the jacket around her shoulders. The moment the warm cloth touched her, she broke. Tears filled her eyes, rolling down her cheeks. She covered her face with her hands, but the sobs escaped. For a long moment, Arik just stood there silent, watching her cry. He wanted to ask her name, but something about her tears stopped him. It was not just fear, not just sadness. It was something deeper, something heavier, like she carried the weight of an entire world on her shoulders. Finally, in a broken whisper, she spoke. "They are coming," she said. Her voice cracked, barely louder than the wind. Arik froze. His heart beat faster. He had heard those words before many times from terrified soldiers, from dying civilians. But when this girl spoke them, it was different. It was not a warning. It was a truth. "Who?" he asked, his voice calm, though his hand tightened on his weapon. Her eyes lifted, glowing faintly in the moonlight. "The ones who took everything. The ones who will not stop. They know I am here." Arik felt the weight of her words. The aliens. The hunters. If they were searching for her, then she was important. But why? She was just a trembling girl, fragile and broken. Or was she? A strange silence filled the air. Then far above, a low hum began. It was deep, heavy, like thunder before a storm. Arik looked up and his blood ran cold. Alien ships. Their dark shapes moved across the clouds, their searchlights cutting through the ruins below. The sound grew louder, shaking the ground. They were close. The girl grabbed his arm, her fingers ice cold, her eyes wide with terror. "Please," she whispered. "Don't let them take me back." Arik's mind raced. He had two choices. He could leave her and run, save himself, survive another day. Or he could protect her, stand against the hunters and risk everything. He looked at her trembling form, the tears still shining on her face, the faint glow under her skin. Something inside him decided before his mind could. "You're safe with me," he said firmly. His voice was low, steady, like a promise. The girl gasped as if no one had ever said those words to her before. Her tears did not stop, but her shaking slowed just a little. The hum of the ships grew louder. Dust fell from the broken walls as the ground shook. Arik pulled her closer, wrapping the jacket tightly around her small frame. For the first time in a long time, Commander Arik felt fear, not for himself, but for her. Whoever she was, whatever she carried inside her, the aliens wanted it. And if they wanted it, it meant she was more than she seemed. The night grew darker as the ships lowered. The searchlights flashed across the ruins. Arik's grip tightened on his weapon. The girl leaned against him, whispering again, "They will not stop. They will burn the world to find me." Arik looked at her, then at the skies. The battle was not over. In fact, it had only just begun, and deep inside, though he did not understand why, he knew one thing. This trembling girl was not just a survivor. She was the key. The aliens were coming, and he would stand between them and her, no matter the cost. The night stretched on, heavy with silence after the alien ships passed overhead. Commander Arik had hidden the girl under the rubble of an old station, his weapon ready, his body tense like a drawn bow. The searchlights faded. The sound of engines moved farther away, but the fear in her eyes did not fade. For a while she said nothing. She only sat there, wrapped in his jacket, staring at the ground, her small body shaking from more than the cold. Arik watched her closely. He had seen fear in many faces before, but this was different. This was not just fear of dying. It was fear of something much worse. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft, almost breaking. "My name is Lyra." Arik nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing. At last a name, but it raised more questions than it answered. "Lyra," he repeated as if testing the word. "Why are they after you?" Her lips trembled. She did not look at him. Instead, her hands clutched the jacket tighter, as if holding onto the last piece of safety in the universe. "They took me," she whispered. "Long ago. They kept me in the dark. They wanted to see how much a human could endure before breaking. They wanted to know what was inside me." Arik felt his chest tighten. He had heard rumors before, whispers that the aliens experimented on humans, but never had he met someone who survived it. "What did they do to you?" he asked, her eyes finally lifted to meet his. For a moment he felt his breath catch. They glowed faintly, not like fire, but like starlight trapped in glass. "They changed me," she said, "but they also failed. They thought humans were weak, soft, easy to bend. But they don't understand. Humans break, yes, but we heal. We rise again, and that is what they fear most." Her words were quiet, but they carried a strange strength, a weight far heavier than her trembling frame. Arik frowned. "You're saying they fear us?" "Yes," Lyra said, her voice firmer now. "They pretend we are prey. They laugh when we fight. But deep down they know the truth. Humans carry something they cannot control, something they cannot kill." Arik leaned closer, his soldier's instincts mixing with curiosity. "What is it? What do we carry?" Lyra shook her head. "Not yet. If I tell you now, you will not believe me. You will think I am broken. But soon you will see." Her words left Arik unsettled. He had fought aliens. He had seen their weapons tear entire armies apart. He had seen humanity lose battle after battle. To think that humans carried some hidden strength sounded like madness, and yet, when he looked at her glowing eyes, when he remembered the way the ships had searched so desperately for her, doubt began to grow inside him. Maybe she was not lying. Arik studied her face. Behind the fear, behind the tears, there was a fire. Small, fragile, but burning. "You escaped them," he said slowly. "How?" Lyra closed her eyes, and for a moment she seemed to drift away into the memory. "There was a battle. They grew careless. The cage broke and I ran. I don't know why I survived. Many others didn't." Her voice cracked. "I hear their screams every night." Her words cut into Arik's chest. He knew that pain too well. The voices of the fallen, the ghosts of the war. He wanted to tell her she was not alone, but he held the words inside. Soldiers learned to carry their pain in silence. Lyra looked at him again, her trembling hands slowly stilling. "But I cannot run forever. They will find me. They always do. That's why you should leave me. If you stay, they will kill you too." Arik almost laughed, a dry sound without humor. "I've been close to death more times than I can count. If they come, I'll deal with them." She shook her head. "You don't understand. They don't want to kill me. They want to use me. And if they succeed, they will use me to destroy your people." The weight of her words sank deep. Arik's jaw tightened. This was no ordinary girl, no frightened refugee. She was something more, something the aliens feared, and perhaps something they wanted to control. For a long time, silence filled the broken station. Only the sound of wind moved through the cracks in the walls. Then Arik spoke, his voice steady. "If they fear you, then maybe you're not a weakness. Maybe you're a weapon." Lyra's eyes widened. She looked at him with both fear and wonder, as if his words touched a thought she dared not say aloud. "A weapon," she whispered, as though testing the idea herself. Arik nodded. "And if that's true, then hiding won't save you. But maybe fighting will." Her lips parted, but no sound came. For the first time, her tears stopped. She simply stared at him, trembling still, but with a flicker of something else in her eyes. Hope. Far in the distance, the low hum of engines returned. The search was not over. The hunters were still near. Lyra's hand gripped his sleeve, her voice urgent. "They will not stop until they find me. And when they do, everything ends." Arik stood, his weapon ready once more, his body a shield between her and the night. "Then let them come," he said firmly. They'll learn soon enough what humans can do. And with those words, the mystery of Lyra deepened. She was no longer just a trembling girl in the ruins. She was something more, a secret. A danger, and perhaps the very key to humanity's survival. The war was changing, and Arik knew it. The morning light broke through the gray clouds, casting a pale glow over the ruins. Commander Arik led Lyra through the shattered streets, his weapon in hand, his eyes sharp. The city was silent, too silent, as if even the wind was afraid to move. Every shadow seemed alive, every corner a possible trap. Behind him, Lyra followed closely, still wrapped in his jacket. Her steps were light, almost soundless, but her trembling had not fully stopped. She looked around with wide eyes as though expecting the hunters to appear at any moment. When they finally reached the hidden shelter where Arik's squad waited, the tension grew sharper. The shelter was an old subway station deep underground, lit only by flickering lamps. His soldiers, tired and scarred from battles, turned their heads as the two entered. Their eyes narrowed when they saw the girl. "Who is she?" Sergeant Vale asked, his tone suspicious. He was older than Arik, with a face cut by scars and a voice that carried no warmth. "Where did you find her?" Arik stood tall. "She's a survivor. I found her near the eastern ruins. She needs protection." Vale's eyes lingered on Lyra. "Protection? Or is she a trap?" "You know the stories, Commander. The aliens send decoys. Pretty faces to draw us out, then the fire falls from the sky. How do we know she isn't one of them?" The squad muttered in agreement, their fear disguised as anger. Arik glanced at Lyra. Her head was bowed, her hands clenched tight against the jacket. "She did not defend herself. She's not a trap," Arik said firmly. "She's human. And she knows things about the enemy. Things we need to hear." Vale's lip curled. "Oh, she knows things. How convenient." He stepped closer, his heavy boots echoing in the chamber. "Look at her eyes, Commander. Look at her skin. She's not normal. She glows like one of them. You trust that?" Arik's voice hardened. "I trust my instincts. And my instincts say she's on our side." The tension filled the room like smoke. For a moment it seemed Vale might challenge him further, but then he spat to the side and turned away. "Your instincts better be right, or we'll all die because of that girl." The soldiers went back to their tasks, but their eyes still watched Lyra with cold suspicion. Later, when the squad rested, Arik sat near Lyra. She had not moved from the corner, her knees drawn close to her chest. She looked fragile, but her glowing eyes carried a strength that unsettled even him. "They don't trust me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Arik shook his head. "They've lost too much. Trust is hard to find in times like these." Lyra looked up at him, her eyes wet but steady. "And do you trust me?" Arik paused. He thought of the night before, of the way she cried when he gave her his jacket, of the way the aliens searched for her like she was the only thing that mattered. Slowly he nodded. "Yes, I do." Her lips trembled into the smallest smile. But before she could speak, the ground shook. A low rumble echoed through the subway tunnels. Dust rained from the ceiling. The soldiers leapt to their feet, weapons raised. The sound grew louder, closer, like metal grinding against stone. Then came the voice. It was not human. It was deep, broken, filled with static. It echoed through the tunnels like a machine speaking in a forgotten tongue. "Give her to us," the voice demanded. "Surrender the girl and you may live." The soldiers froze, fear flashing across their faces. Vale cursed under his breath. "They've found us," Arik's jaw tightened. His eyes went to Lyra. She was shaking again, her hands gripping his jacket like it was the only thing keeping her alive. "They will never stop," she whispered. "They want me, not you. If you give me to them, they will leave." Arik looked at her sharply. "No, that's not an option." The voice came again, harsher this time. "You cannot hide. We see you. The girl belongs to us." The sound of metal claws scraping stone echoed closer. The aliens were moving through the tunnels, hunting. Panic spread through the squad. One soldier shouted, "Commander, we can't hold them off. Give them the girl." Vale's eyes burned with anger. "He's right, Arik. We're soldiers, not martyrs. One girl isn't worth the entire squad." Arik raised his weapon, his voice cutting through the chaos like steel. "No one touches her. Do you hear me? She stays with us." The soldiers fell silent. They had followed him through countless battles, and though doubt filled their eyes, his command still held power. Lyra's breath came in short gasps. "You don't understand," she whispered, tears glistening. "If they take me, they will use me. They will turn me into a weapon against you, Against all humans. Her words struck like lightning. Even Vale paused, his suspicion twisting into uncertainty. The rumble grew louder. Shadows moved at the end of the tunnel. The first glimmer of alien metal shone in the flickering lights. Arik stepped forward, his body between Lyra and the advancing threat. His voice rang out, steady and fierce. Then we fight. We fight because she is worth more than all of us. She is hope. The soldiers gripped their weapons tighter, their fear mixing with determination. Even Vale could not deny the fire in Arik's voice. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter in the dark, her trembling slowing as she looked at him. For the first time, she believed, and as the hunters closed in, the air filled with the promise of battle. The tension was no longer just in the squad. It was in the war itself. Something was shifting, something powerful, and at the center of it all stood a trembling girl and the commander who chose to protect her. The tunnel shook with the sound of metal claws. The squad fired their weapons, sparks lighting the darkness, alien shadows crawling closer. Commander Arik stood at the front, his rifle spitting fire, his voice shouting commands that kept his men alive. Lyra stayed behind him, pressed against the cold wall, her glowing eyes wide with fear. The jacket around her shoulders felt heavier now, as though it carried not only warmth but also the weight of his promise. The battle was chaos. Alien drones swarmed, their bodies glinting like steel insects, their weapons burning holes through the stone walls. Soldiers shouted, bullets tore the dark, and screams echoed through the underground chamber. And then, silence. The surviving aliens retreated, their claws scraping back into the tunnels. The squad lowered their weapons, panting, drenched in sweat. They're pulling back, Vale said, suspicion sharp in his voice. That's not right. They never retreat unless... He stopped, his eyes narrowing. Unless they already had what they wanted. Arik turned sharply. His heart froze. Lyra was gone. The jacket lay crumpled on the floor. Her small footprints led into the shadows toward a collapsed tunnel. No, Arik's voice broke as he ran forward, searching, calling her name. The squad followed, their lamps flashing across the stone walls. And then they found her. Lyra stood in the tunnel, surrounded by alien drones. Her hands were bound by glowing restraints, her body trembling as they pushed her forward. Her eyes found Arik, filled with sorrow. Arik, she whispered. The drones dragged her back into the dark before he could reach her. Arik fired until his weapon clicked empty. He roared in rage, his fists slamming against the stone. But it was too late. She was gone. The squad stood behind him, silent. None dared to speak until Vale stepped forward. I told you, he said coldly. She was a danger. Now the aliens have her and we're still alive. Maybe that's what she wanted all along. Arik spun around, fury in his eyes. You think she went willingly? Did you not see her face? She was begging for help. Vale didn't flinch. He crossed his arms, his scarred face twisted in bitterness. And yet somehow they knew exactly where we were. They came straight to us, Commander. How? Unless someone led them. The words struck like a blade. Arik's gaze swept over the squad. Faces filled with doubt, fear, and guilt. The truth burned in his chest. There was a traitor among them. Arik's fists tightened. He wanted to accuse Vale, but his instincts held him back. The betrayal could have come from anyone. Someone had sent a signal. Someone had whispered their location. Someone had chosen survival over loyalty. But whoever it was, the result was the same. Lyra was gone and the enemy had her. Arik sank to his knees, his chest heaving. Images of her trembling form, her tearful eyes, her whisper, "They will not stop until they find me," rushed through his mind. He had sworn to protect her. He had promised she was safe. And now, she was in their hands once more. The silence grew heavy, broken only by the distant rumble of alien engines above. Finally, Arik rose to his feet. His voice was low, but it carried through the chamber like iron. They took her, but this is not the end. I will find her. I don't care what it takes, I will bring her back, Vale scoffed. You're chasing death, Commander. She's probably already lost. Arik's eyes burned with fire. No, she is not lost. She's the key, Vale. And if the aliens have her, then humanity's time is running out. He turned to his men, his voice sharper now. Listen to me. There is a traitor here. Someone gave her up. I don't know who, but I will find out. And when I do, there will be no mercy. The squad shifted uncomfortably. None spoke. The air between them was thick with mistrust. Arik's gaze hardened. He had fought countless battles, but this was different. This was not just war. This was personal. Lyra was more than a mission, more than a weapon, more than hope for humanity. She had become a promise carved into his heart. And promises were not something Commander Arik broke. He picked up the fallen jacket, clutching it tightly in his hand. The fabric still carried her warmth, her scent, her tears. He folded it carefully, placing it inside his pack. Then he raised his weapon. We move at dawn. We track them. We bring her back. Or we die trying. The soldiers looked at him, their fear still alive, their trust shaken. But his voice carried something stronger than fear. It carried resolve. And that was enough to make them follow for now. In the shadows of the ruined tunnels, one soldier lowered his head, hiding a guilty glance. The betrayer remained unknown, their secret safe for the moment, but not forever. Above the city, the alien ships roared like thunder, carrying Lyra away into the dark sky. Her tears had dried, her face pale, her body trembling. She whispered Arik's name, a plea carried into the night. And though he could not hear her, he felt it in his chest like a fire that refused to die. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also lit a spark. This war was no longer about orders. It was about her, and Arik would burn the stars themselves if that's what it took to bring her back. The alien ship was a prison of shadows and steel. Its walls pulsed faintly with strange light, alive like the inside of a creature. Lyra sat chained in the center of a cold chamber, her wrists bound by glowing bands, her breath coming in short gasps. Every sound in this place was alien. The low hum of engines, the hiss of machines, the faint clicking of unseen claws. She had been here before. The smell of metal, the sting of the restraints, the crushing silence, it all came back like a nightmare repeating itself. But this time, something was different. This time she was not alone in her fear. She carried Arik's promise in her heart. His jacket was gone, but the warmth of his words, "You're safe with me," still lived inside her. The chamber door opened with a hiss. A tall alien stepped inside. Its body was long and thin, armored like black glass, its face a mask of sharp ridges and burning eyes. It moved without sound except for the faint crackle of its voice. "You thought you could run, child," it said in a broken, static-filled tone. "But you belong to us." Lyra trembled, but she lifted her chin. "I belong to no one." The alien tilted its head, amused. "You carry the spark. We made you. Without us, you are nothing." Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "You didn't make me. You only revealed what was already there." The alien's voice hardened. "A dangerous lie. Humanity is weak, fragile, you break so easily. And yet," its gaze narrowed. You heal. You rise. That is why we study you. That is why we fear you." The words struck her like cold fire. "They fear us." She remembered telling Arik the same thing. And now the truth was spoken by the enemy itself. The alien stepped closer. "You are proof of their mistake. The spark inside you, it is human, yes, but stronger than most. We will cut it out. We will shape it into a weapon. And when we are done, humanity will fall by its own creation." Lyra's chains burned, but her spirit did not bend. "No," she whispered. "You cannot control what you do not understand." The alien raised a hand and the restraints tightened, sending a surge of pain through her body. She cried out, her voice echoing through the chamber. The machines on the walls lit up, feeding on her agony. And then something happened. The glow under her skin flared brighter, spreading through her veins like fire. The pain shifted into power, her body trembling not with weakness but with energy. The chains cracked, the light inside her forcing against them. The alien stepped back, its burning eyes narrowing. "Impossible." Lyra's voice shook, but it carried strength. "You tried to break me. You only woke me." The glow burst from her like a wave, rattling the walls, shaking the chamber. The chains shattered, falling to the floor in sparks. For the first time, she stood free, her eyes blazing like stars. The alien hissed, retreating. "The resonance," it whispered. "It spreads." Lyra breathed heavily, her body shaking but alive with new strength. The word echoed in her mind, resonance. She had heard it before, in fragments of memory, in the whispers of others who had been captured, a hidden power buried deep inside every human. This was what the aliens feared. Not weapons, not armies, but the truth that humans carried something no other race did. A power that grew stronger the more they suffered, the more they endured. She had become the first to awaken it. Far below, on the broken surface of the planet, Arik searched. His squad followed reluctantly, but his eyes carried fire. He traced the skies, watching the alien ships, waiting for a chance. Every step he took was fueled not by orders, not by duty, but by the image of Lyra's trembling face and the sound of her voice begging for freedom. He did not know where she was. He did not know how to reach her. But in his heart he felt something strange, an echo, like a pull in the air, guiding him forward. Vale noticed. "Commander," he said cautiously, "where are you leading us?" "You walk like a man chasing ghosts." Arik's gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. "Not ghosts, her, I can feel her." The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances, whispering about madness, about obsession. But none dared to leave. In the alien chamber, Lyra closed her eyes, her glow fading back into her skin. She was weak, exhausted, but alive. And now she understood she was not just a victim. She was proof humanity was not prey. Humanity was the storm that could not be controlled. The aliens had taken her to break her. Instead, they had shown her the truth, and somewhere out there Arik was coming. She felt it in her chest like a second heartbeat. His promise was alive inside her, and it gave her the strength to stand, even as the aliens surrounded her once more. For the first time, she was not trembling. She was waiting. The night sky burned with fire. Alien ships hovered above the ruined city, their engines shaking the ground, their lights cutting through the darkness like knives. The people below had grown used to running, hiding, waiting for death. But this night was different. Commander Arik stood on the roof of a collapsed building, his rifle in hand, his eyes fixed on the sky. The jacket in his pack weighed heavy, a reminder of the girl who had been taken. His squad gathered around him, nervous, whispering doubts. Vale spat to the side. "We can't fight this, Commander. We're ants under a storm. They'll crush us all." Arik's voice cut through the fear. "Not tonight." His gaze sharpened as the ship above split open, revealing the dark prison chamber inside. And there she stood, Lyra, bound no longer, her body glowing with light, her eyes blazing like 1,000 stars. The soldiers gasped. Vale stumbled back. "What in the hell?" Lyra's voice rose above the thunder of engines, steady and strong. "You called us weak. You said we were prey. But you were wrong. Humans rise." The air shook as her glow spread outward, a wave of energy rippling through the city. The ruined walls hummed, the broken glass sang, and every human heart nearby felt it. Like a second heartbeat, like fire awakening in their veins. Arik staggered, his chest burning. His rifle slipped from his hand as something new surged inside him. His body trembled, but it was not fear. It was strength. His veins glowed faintly, just like hers. Vale cried out, clutching his arms as light spread beneath his skin. "What's happening to us?" Arik's voice answered, fierce and certain. "Resonance. She's awakening it in all of us." The alien ship roared, its weapons charging, beams of red light slicing through the ground. Buildings shattered, flames rose, the earth shook. Yet through the destruction, humans stood taller than they ever had. Lyra lifted her hands, light bursting from her palms. The alien beams bent, split, and shattered in the air, powerless against her glow. Her voice echoed like thunder. "You cannot control us. You cannot stop us. We are more than prey." The squad stared in awe as Arik stepped forward, the glow inside him flaring brighter. His body felt lighter, faster, stronger. He lifted a piece of fallen steel that should have been impossible for one man, and he hurled it at an alien drone, smashing it to pieces. The others followed. Fear turned into fire. Soldiers who had once whispered of surrender now fought with new strength. Their eyes glowed, their bodies alive with the resonance. The battle was no longer one-sided. Alien drones poured from the ship, their claws tearing through stone. But humans moved with speed and power beyond normal limits. Weapons cracked, fists smashed, fire rose against steel. The hunters who once saw humanity as weak now faltered, their perfect machines breaking against the fury of awakened men and women. Arik's voice rose above the chaos. "This is what they fear. This is why they tried to break us. Because they knew, once we awaken, we cannot be stopped." Lyra joined him, her light covering the battlefield, shielding humans from alien fire. Her tears had dried. Her trembling had ended. She was no longer a prisoner, she was a beacon. But in the middle of the fight, the traitor revealed himself, a soldier from Arik's squad. One who had always stayed quiet, always kept his eyes low, lifted a beacon device glowing red with alien signal. He activated it, calling more ships. Vale saw him and roared.
"It was you."
The traitor sneered. Survival means choosing the winning side, and humanity was never the winning side. Arik's fist glowed with resonance as he struck the device, shattering it into dust. His voice was iron. "You were wrong. Humanity is the only side." The traitor fell, defeated as more ships appeared in the sky. The city shook under their engines. The battle was far from over. Lyra stumbled, her glow flickering. She had given so much of herself, and the weight of it pressed heavy on her small body. She looked as though she might collapse. Arik rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. She leaned against him, her voice faint but unbroken. "Do you see now? This is why they fear us. The more they try to crush us, the stronger we become." Arik held her close, his own glow blazing brighter. He looked at the skies, his voice a vow. "Then let's show them what humans can do." With Lyra at his side and the resonance flowing through every soldier, humanity struck back. The ruined city turned into a battlefield of light and fire, a place where prey became predators, where weakness became strength. The aliens had underestimated them, and in that mistake they had awakened the one thing they could never control: humanity. The battle raged until the first light of dawn touched the broken horizon. Alien ships burned in the sky, falling like dying stars. The city, once silent and broken, now shook with the echoes of human voices shouting in victory. Smoke curled above the ruins, glowing orange in the morning sun. The smell of fire, dust, and blood filled the air. But for the first time in years, there was also something else: hope. Commander Arik stood at the center of it all, his chest rising and falling, his weapon lowered. His body glowed faintly, the power of the resonance still alive within him. Around him, his soldiers stood taller than ever before. Their eyes glowed too, their fear gone, replaced with fierce pride. But his gaze was fixed on one figure: Lyra. She stood among the rubble, her jacket torn, her body weak, but her eyes brighter than the rising sun. The glow inside her flickered softly now, gentle, like a flame that had burned all night but refused to die. She was trembling again, but this time it was not from fear. It was from the weight of what she had done. Arik walked to her, the ground crunching under his boots. When he reached her, he placed the jacket around her shoulders once more. She clutched it tightly, her tears returning, but they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of relief. "You kept your promise," she whispered, her voice breaking. Arik's voice was steady, though his chest ached. "I told you. You're safe with me." Her tears fell faster, but a smile broke through them. For the first time since he had found her in the ruins, she looked at peace. The soldiers gathered, staring at Lyra in silence. They had seen her power, her light, her courage. And though they had doubted her, though some had cursed her, now they looked at her with awe. Vale stepped forward, his scarred face softer than before. "We thought you were a danger, but you were the only hope we had." Lyra lowered her head, her voice quiet. "I'm not special. I only showed what was already inside all of you." She lifted her gaze, her glowing eyes sweeping across them. "Humans are not weak. Humans rise. That is what they fear. That is what makes us strong." The word struck deep into every heart. Even the hardest soldier felt something stir inside. A fire they had not known was there. Above them, the sky grew brighter as the sun climbed higher. The surviving alien ships pulled back, vanishing into the clouds. For now, the battle was over. But all knew this was not the end of the war. The aliens would return stronger, fiercer, more desperate, yet something had changed forever. Humans were no longer prey. Arik looked at the burning horizon, then back at Lyra. "They'll come again," he said quietly. Lyra nodded, her hands gripping the jacket. "Yes, and when they do, they'll find us ready." Arik placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and strong. "Because now we know. We know what we are." The soldiers stood behind him, silent but united. The fear that had once ruled them was gone. In its place was something the aliens could never kill: belief. Lyra leaned against Arik, her body still weak, her voice soft. "Do you see it now? The more they try to break us, the more we rise. That is the resonance. That is humanity." Arik's eyes burned with quiet fire. He looked at his squad, at the ruins, at the sky. Then he spoke the words that would be remembered long after. "When humans are underestimated, that is when we are most dangerous." The silence that followed was heavy, But it was not empty. It was filled with power, with pride, with the unshakable truth of who they were. Lyra smiled faintly, her tears still falling. She pulled the jacket tighter, the symbol of his promise, the memory of his protection. For the first time since her capture, she felt safe. Not because the war was over. It wasn't. Not because the aliens were gone. They weren't. But because humanity had awakened. The sun rose higher, bathing the ruins in golden light, and in that light, the world changed. The aliens would return. The battles would continue. The scars of war would deepen, but from this moment on, humanity would never bow again. They had discovered their true strength, a strength born not from machines or weapons, but from the fire inside their own hearts. The resonance was not a gift from the aliens. It was not something created in a lab. It was human. It had always been human, and it would spread. From one trembling girl to a squad of doubting soldiers to the entire human race. The galaxy would remember this day. The day the prey became predators. The day humans stopped running. The day humans rose. Commander Arik stood with Lyra at his side, the jacket around her shoulders, her tears shining in the morning sun. He knew the war was far from finished, but he also knew this truth. Whatever the cost, humanity would endure. Humanity would fight. Humanity would rise, and this time the galaxy would tremble.